Thanks for joining us for This Week in Evansville. Look, we've got a great show lined up for you today, and you don't want to miss this because, first of all, Election Day is coming up really quick. And we've got one of the candidates for county commission with us, and actually she's currently our county commissioner. Cheryl Musgrave is here, and I'm glad that you were able to find some time to join us.
Well, thank you, Johnny, for the invitation. I hope people will recognize that Tuesday, May 7th, is the Republican and Democrat primary, and I hope that you will come out and vote Republican and vote for Cheryl Musgrave.
You know, I'm
sorry, that was a shameless plug.
That's it. You know what? Shameless plugs are good. I'm working the polls for Election Day.
Oh, good.
And so I've already voted, but it was I went through the training, and they were lamenting the fact that it's a low voter turnout so far.
Well, so far.
Yeah. And so I'm really hoping, and I know there are a lot of people who are traditional voters that believe you've got to cast a ballot on Election Day. So I'm hoping that there's going to be a huge turnout for May 7th because people need to be more engaged in all of this.
Well, I think that they need to understand that elections will be decided on primary day, and the November election really is just a kind of a rubber stamp of that. So we have a contest for governor, contest for Congress. We haven't had a contest in a primary for Congress for, can't remember the last time, maybe 12 years ago?
Yeah, 2012.
So this doesn't happen very often, and the governor contest doesn't happen very often. Usually those deals are made in, political smoke-filled rooms, like they used to say, and the party decides who they're going to put forth. This year, in those two races and in Vanderburgh County Commission race, you get to choose yourself. And the choice you make in the primary is like taking 10 votes with you because so many folks stay home. So I guess my challenge to you is go vote and take some people with you. Don't leave it up to just a few folks who have money and who are looking to retain the privilege that they have.
I know a lot of people who complain about what a mess things are in overall. And on the national scene, I know a lot of voters stay away from the primary in Indiana because we're late enough in the game that the decision's already made on the presidential race. I get that. But, we've got some really good candidates running for governor, and we've got some people running for governor who could mess things up. Plain and simple, right? And it's the same thing with the congressional candidates. And you really need to get to know a little bit about those folks and then go and cast that ballot. Whoever wins the primary, the Republican primary for governor, is almost a shoo-in to become the next governor of the state of Indiana because the state votes Republican so much. Same thing with that congressional seat. It's the most Republican district in the country. And so whoever wins the primary for Congress is going to be our next representative in Washington, D.C. So you definitely want to go to the polls and cast those votes. Really important. And on a local level, one of the races that is absolutely crucial is the county commission race.
Correct.
And I'll just go ahead and some people. We'll give you a quick civics lesson here, okay?
Oh boy! Well, are you the teacher?
Yeah. Well, because sometimes people don't understand the structure that's involved there, and the county commission is usually described as being the executive branch of our county government.
Well, it is, but it's also the legislative branch. So it's like being mayor and city council rolled into one. But we just don't get to handle the finances. County council does the finances, and the county commission kind of sets the rules, basically, and makes the decisions. Right. So it's a very important position, and for anybody who complains about things being, in disarray anywhere in government. This election is the opportunity to fix some of that. Well, let me just throw in something about the county commissioners in Indiana and in some other states, not all states. But, you have a single president of the United States. You have a single governor of all 50 states.
Right.
In mayors, cities, you have a single mayor. But for some reason, in county government, our 4 founders decided that we needed 3 in Indiana. So as a county commissioner, there are 3 of us, and it takes 2 votes to get anything done. And I say 2 votes is good, but 3 votes is better. Mm-hmm. And I would like to, pat myself a little bit on the back that as I've been president, as I've been a member of the commission, almost everything passes with those 3 votes. So we work really, really hard to make sure that we're all on the same page, because in local government, party politics doesn't matter as much as getting things done. Mm-hmm. People don't want you to fuss and fight with each other. They want you to deliver. I do have a track record of delivery, and I hope we can get to that.
We definitely will.
Okay.
But first, I want to take just a little bit of time to get to know you a little bit.
Oh, okay.
All right. Because we've known each other for a long time, and I frequently tell people the best advice that I never took came from Cheryl Musgrave. When I made the mistake of saying, I'll run for state representative in District 77, which is like very heavily Democrat, and Cheryl and I sat and had a conversation, and Cheryl kept telling me, you're not likely to win this seat. Right. And
it's called gerrymandering. Mm-hmm. And our state legislature, they're not unusual in being state legislatures around the country, but they draw districts in order to favor the majority of whoever's there when it's district drawing time.
Right.
And so for a couple of those times, it comes every 10 years, the Republicans have been in charge, and they drew District 77 as the place to put all the Democrat votes so that the surrounding districts could be solidly Republican. Mm-hmm. I tried to tell you that.
Yes, I know, and I didn't listen, and I went down in flames. So.
Well, it's not your fault.
Yeah. Well, okay? For running it is, but then that's
right. But the system was against you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, as a result of that, another run at another office, I've now had to make the promise to my wife: I will never run for political office again.
It is not for the faint-hearted.
It really isn't.
It's not for folks who simply don't want a lot of conflict in their lives. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd be surprised at how many opportunities for conflict there are.
Oh, I bet.
So, as commissioner, I work to reduce those, very much so. So you don't hear about us fussing and fighting. You hear about us getting things done. Which
is the important thing.
I think so.
Yeah. So
let's talk about the Coliseum.
Let's do that because I went to that. It was
a
wire cutting ceremony. Yeah, for the start of the renovations to the Coliseum, and that's federal money.
Yes, there's American Rescue Plan Act funding that the federal government sent to states and local communities to recover from the effects of COVID. Mm-hmm. And one of the hardest hitting effects of COVID was on the entertainment industry, and truly for the Coliseum. Business dried up, nobody could go anywhere. And it also coincided at a time when the Coliseum needed major repairs. Our Coliseum's boiler was kaput. I think it was held together with chewing gum and some wire. Mm-hmm. The HVAC, the cooling system, that didn't work at all. The wiring was a conglomeration of wiring put in since 1914 or something. And there was even some aluminum wiring in there. So many electrical panels, you had no idea. So many. It was a whole wall full that most of them didn't work. And the ones that did, nobody trusted them. It is not a good situation. Mm-hmm. So, the right money at the right time. And the commission, we made the decision to set aside $6 million, thinking it would go pretty far. Well, we were wrong. But we got started. We're getting started.
Yes. And it's an incredible facility. You're talking about this 100-year-old facility that was built primarily to honor Civil War veterans.
Right.
They did such a good job on that construction, and it's a wonderful place for events. I've done 2 oldies related shows in there, and they were so much fun.
I hope we can bring those back. I really do.
Yeah. We just had, there is something about being in that facility with, music from the 50s or 60s playing.
Any kind of music.
Any kind of music.
The acoustics in there are amazing. Mm-hmm. No matter where you're at in that building, you can hear a pin drop. Or like my father used to do, walk through, he's a musician, and start snapping his fingers. It just bounces off the walls perfectly. Now, that floor space, that ceiling space, that is to be treasured. There is no other facility in our community where you have a stage basically with a huge flat area that you can set up the way you want to. None. And with the acoustics of the Coliseum and the flexibility. So I can hardly wait to have that building open again. We are anticipating it'll be open maybe the end of December, definitely by January. But I want to caution everybody, I do need another $30 million in order to really take it to the next level. What we're doing right now, you can be considering as basic repairs and adding basic infrastructure. But even when we get it open, it still will have the same old 1914 bathrooms. It will not have a coat of paint. It will not have lighting, for stage lighting. It will not, and this is the most important thing, and I regret this very much, it will not have handicap accessibility. It will be the same facility that we have, that we started with. That's where most of the money comes into. There's so many changes in levels in the Coliseum, from trying to get in to trying to get around. All the seating, for example, all the seating is on the second floor.
Right.
There's no elevator. Yeah. It's a problem. But elevators are truly expensive.
Oh, they really are.
It's jaw dropping. So what we need more money, but we'll probably go ahead and open it and return it to its level of functioning, which is nowhere near the glory that we need it to be. Yeah. But we'll get started.
Well, and there are people in the community who I'm sure are willing to step forward.
I hope they do.
Yeah,
we'll give you naming rights. It could be your family name, Veterans Memorial Coliseum, or we could name the stage after you. I'll be shameless about, what can we do to recognize your contribution to get us a Coliseum that truly meets the standards that we need it to meet today.
Jill Hahn took me on a little tour around the facility that day.
That's Councilwoman Jill Hahn. She's County Council President.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And she's running for re-election, by the way. So
there you go.
Just if we're shamelessly plugging, we'll shamelessly plug. But Jill took me around and just to show, and it's, there are so many spaces that with a little bit of work done to them, obviously, that they can be really great event venues. I mean,
really great.
Smaller room areas that like for receptions and things like that. I mean, just really, there's a lot that can be done in that facility. It ain't just for wrestling. Okay.
So wrestling is good. So is boxing. But the Civic Theater has expressed a desire to move into the facility on the lower level, which we aren't able to touch with the $6 million that we have now. There are a lot of offices. That could be a real center for the arts, with offices for various organizations that put on shows and use the space upstairs. We don't have a hub for arts in Evansville. And the Coliseum was actually built for that purpose. I would love to see it do that again.
Well, you have a passion for preserving historic buildings.
I do. I live in one.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is, in Evansville, somehow at some point, a lot of times those historic buildings, we just step away from them.
That's a shame. But we did preserve the old post office. The commissioners own and operate and preserve the old courthouse. And may I say that we're doing a wonderful job with that. The Coliseum, I probably should have mentioned this before, but it was leased to a veterans organization. The commissioners in 1970, 71, they leased it for 100 years to this organization. And that 100 years isn't up yet, but the veterans realized that the building needed more investment, and they were not able to do that. So they relinquished their lease back to the commissioners as of January 1st of 2024. So the commissioners have just gotten that building back, and we'll take it from here.
All right. Well, and I'm going to put in a plug for one of those county facilities. When my daughter got married, this is years ago, we did her wedding at the old courthouse.
Yeah, that's great.
What a just beautiful place for that. And we were able to use the courtroom for the ceremony, and then had another room for the reception. And it was just a really special place for doing that.
It really makes you feel like you're part of history.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if we didn't have commissioners who were dedicated to preserving these places. So just really love that place. And it was a great experience for us. I want to talk a little bit now about some of what because you've been a part of government here in the tri-state area for a long time.
Let me correct you on that.
Won't say it a long time.
There have been there are several office holders who have been holding office. I took 10 years off. Mm-hmm. So I was 12 years an elected official. Then I took 10 years off. And now I'm 8 years an elected official. So while people remember me from long ago, I have not been in office that entire time. And I'm really glad I took that time off. It was really wonderful to step back and look at things from a wider distance, to think about government and local needs that we had without being responsible or directing them at that time. Mm-hmm. So I was reelected as commissioner, or elected, in 2016. And so this will be I'm asking to be elected for, I consider it the third term.
Mm-hmm. Well, in addition, though, to commissioner, you drew attention from the state level, right? Yes. And I can't mention the governor's name, this particular governor's name, because when I do, we have to have a heavenly choir kind of check it out,
Yes, well, we can all go.
We revere Mitch Daniels that much here, because I just think under his administration, so many good things happened for the state of Indiana.
They did. And he invited me to, or actually he asked me, not once but twice, it took me a couple of weeks to make up my mind, to come to Indianapolis and to straighten out the property tax crisis that he was having back in 2007. You may not remember it. I know that the reporting out of Indianapolis doesn't always make it to Evansville.
Right.
But there were shanties and tents ringing the State House, where people were there camped out for well over a month, protesting property tax bills and the escalation in property tax bills. I had spent my first 10 years as an elected official as county assessor, and I call that 10 long years. Nobody likes the assessor. You end up making everybody mad. Nobody is ever pleased with an assessment that they've received. So 10 long years, but I became an expert at it, property taxes, government finance. And the governor had me, I came to his office, and he was on one side of his desk and I was on the other. And he said that I was the only person in the state who could help him on this problem. I thought that was going a little over the top, but, and would I please come? And so I did say yes. That was on a Thursday. By Monday, I found myself behind a desk at the Department of Local Government Finance. But my condition for saying yes for the governor was, would he help eliminate the office of Township Assessor? And the Kernan Shepard report, do you remember that? Maybe you do.
I do.
You don't?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, had outlined 10 major things that you could do to improve government in Indiana. And the elimination of township assessors was one of those things. So he was familiar with the problem I was describing. So when I said, will you help eliminate township assessors? He went, yes. And I said, okay, then we'll do it. Because during my 10 long years as Vandenberg County assessor, the 8 township assessors were indeed the problem at that time, keeping us from fair assessments for everyone. So he was true to his word. And by the time that I left, 18 short months later, because that's how long I told him I would stay, we were down to 12 township assessors in the entire state.
Wow.
A referendum was put on the ballot, and in all jurisdictions except 12, the people voted to eliminate that rule and to transfer that power to the county assessor. Can I just say one more thing?
Sure, absolutely.
County assessors were created by the legislators, and I think it was in 1857. Could have been 1859. It was a long time ago, okay? They created that office in order to try to get control of the township assessors. Well, it didn't work. And then for the next 100 and how many years was it until 2008, they kept having study after study about how we can make this better. So my question to the governor, will you do this as a condition of me coming, finally closed the book at that 150-year-long quest to improve assessing. So thank you, Governor Daniels. Thank you to you all who voted in that referendum. We have fewer elected officials statewide, and the assessments did get better. They're not perfect. Folks, I know that there's more that needs to be done. As commissioner, I will do what I can, but that job is the state legislators. They have to do this.
And we can both say that with a smile because you guys are in the legislature.
That's right.
So yes, it works out well. There's a lot that the county commissioners do that people don't really. I think the number one thing that people think with county commissioners is that you oversee road projects and that's like the obvious, but there's a lot of other things that the commission does for people that we probably don't acknowledge.
But let me just jump in here. One of the issues that you haven't heard about much in this particular campaign is consolidation. Not everyone is a fan of the county commissioners, including the big business backers of my opponent. Consolidation is their number one goal. Even though just a few years ago, I think it was 2012, can't quite remember, but it was defeated by a huge percentage, whopping 67%, I think, percentage of the voters said, no, we don't want consolidation. Well, it remains their number one goal, even if they don't talk about it every day. What they'd like to have in Vanderburgh County is one executive. And they want that one executive to be the combined city-county mayor. So that's what they want to do. They want to eliminate the county commissioners' voices. And I'm completely opposed to that. I know for a fact that folks who live in the county would see their services go down and their taxes go up. Those are the two things I can guarantee you will happen in a consolidation. So my opponent is being backed by these folks, and that's their agenda, even if they're not talking about it out loud.
And let me try to put I'm sometimes I want to say something but I don't want to go over the cliff. Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right. So I'm trying to keep from going over the cliff here.
Don't go over the cliff.
If you look at the condition of our city finances.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you can go over this.
Oh, okay. If you look at the condition of the city finances, the responsibility, we had a budget surplus in the Weinzapfel administration.
Right.
And we've gone now 12 years later, here we are with $1 billion of bond debt that the city has out there. It's
truly shocking. And the population of the city of Evansville drops every day. It's horrifying that these two things are together. I mean, if you had $1 billion in debt and you were growing like crazy, well, then you could feel more comfortable that debt could be handled. But our population in the city is dropping. The population outside the city in Vanderburgh County is growing. But we are not responsible for the debts of the city. That's why I can guarantee you, if consolidation happened, you in the county, you county voters, you would suddenly bear a new responsibility for the debts that the city has accumulated over time. No wonder they want to consolidate. They want to hand you a bill.
Yeah, and it really is kind of big business interests that have driven a lot of what happens at the city level, and so it's possible that can happen at the county level as well if we aren't doing the right thing by going to the polls and voting, because this
on
is
Tuesday, May 7th.
There you go.
It's the big day.
Absolutely. So, but the place where I wanted to get to here deals with those things that people don't really think about. For example, I am a beneficiary of your work because Cheryl was instrumental in bringing AT&T into a partnership here in the county that provides not just internet, but darn fast internet.
The best the world has to offer.
Yeah. Fiber
optic broadband wired to every property in the county.
Mm-hmm.
It is a goal that the entire country has been working on. Vanderburgh County is the only county in the state of Indiana that has achieved this. And we are the only county in the country, in the whole United States, that has achieved this. And again, I don't want to break my arm patting myself on the back, but it was due to the particular nature of me being, I've persevered. I can tell you I started out learning about broadband from the good folks at EREP. It was a different leadership team at that time. They were trying to educate county officials in Posey, Gibson, Vanderburgh, Warwick about it because there was federal money coming,
right,
and they wanted us to all apply for it. Well, I learned about it, applied for it, and the state shot us down. My gosh, they kicked our application to the curb. So what I did then was something that no one else had ever done at that time. I just decided to put out hey, Vanderburgh County has funding. When at that time we had American Rescue Plan Act funding. We had it just like we were using it for the Coliseum. We set aside a big chunk of it to solve the broadband problem. So I let the world know, hey, we have funding. Here's what we would like you to do. Make a proposal to us. Again, no one had ever taken that path before. EREP thought it was so ill-advised that they wouldn't even participate in the committee. So I had to form my own committee. I had great people like Randy Crone, the president of the Indiana Farm Bureau, and former Sheriff Eric Williams formed a team with me, along with an expert from an engineering firm here in town, and the county attorney who was protesting the entire time that he did not know anything about the internet or technology. But we got together and we wrote this proposal, and lo and behold, we got 3 responses. 2 of them were offering $10 million to do a single subdivision. And the third one was $10 million for the entire county, and AT&T would put in $30 million, making it a $40 million project, delivering the big brass ring to everyone here. I can tell you that we got an outstanding deal. This was AT&T's first their pilot project. So now if you go as a county official and you try to do the same thing, you're going to find that the price tag is considerably north. We were their education in that, and they learned here, and now they're taking what they learned and basically marketing it around the country. But for $40 million, we solved the number one technology problem for households and businesses in the unincorporated county, and it will pay dividends forever.
And what's amazing about it is it's actually affordable to the consumer, too.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you talk about this and being like the gold standard, and you think, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to afford that?
It's national pricing.
We saved money when we went to the fiber optics. So, that's a really big step for the community, and its affordability is the other key there, because we tend to think in terms of every utility company, whether it's cable providers or internet providers, or we throw them all in the same pot.
Yeah,
and
they're not the same.
They're not all the same. But one of the things on people's minds here locally has been those utility companies and
Are
what's
you
happening
talking
to the
about
rates.
electric and
Yeah,
water?
talking
Okay,
electric. Yeah.
totally different from internet.
Absolutely, yeah. Because the internet situation, I'm so pleased with the rate, for it. I really am. I'll do endorsements for AT&T anytime. Call me. Okay. But our electric rates and water rates are going up as well on people, and that's one of the challenges that we're all facing.
Well, and that's one of the issues in the race for Vanderburgh County Commissioner. I've spoken at 2 Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission hearings against local water and electric rate increases. So I've been there representing the commission, speaking in person, asking either for a delay in terms of the water. They should have waited 3 years to do that. Mm-hmm. And for a denial in the case of the electric rate. I just want to tell you, my opponent was not there at either one of those hearings. Part of that reason might be that her employer, the chair of her board, is from Centerpoint.
Okay. That sometimes can influence where the stand a person takes. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I've been out there fighting all this time, and I'll keep at it.
This is something that, I'm hearing the horror stories, from so many people, and it really is sad, and it divides up the, it's a further separation of the haves and the have-nots.
No kidding. And it can get much worse. My opponent states that if ratepayers simply understood why the rates are what they are, then they'd be willing to accept them. Mm-hmm. Well, that just doesn't quite grasp that no matter how much you understand something, you may not have money in your pocket to pay it. You are already making hard choices. No level of understanding is going to make money appear in your wallet. And then to divert that question saying, well, just go ask us charity for help. For how long? Mm-hmm. Every month? For the rest of your life? The government actually created the problem of high utility rates. I'm going to put that on the state and the federal government, plus in the case of water, the local government, the mayor, the city of Evansville that owns the utility outright. But for the other ones, it's the state and the federal government for the decisions that they have made. These decisions that they have made are driving our population into a place where utilities are unaffordable. It's not that they don't want to pay the rates at their home. It's that they can't. Mm-hmm. The state government, the federal government need to step up to the plate and solve this. And I promise you, I will work on that. And I hope that when you have those governor candidates and state legislators and congressional candidates, you bring this up to them. Make them tell you how they're going to handle it. Yeah, accountability is a big thing, and elected officials are accountable to us. And in theory,
that's true.
But not if you don't know about it, and not if you don't show up at the polls, particularly on the primary on May 7th.
What I hear, and here's what I have been very adamant about the way that people campaign, because it's a reflection of what to expect when the person gets into office. Years ago, this goes back to, I won't mention, he's not in politics anymore, but I talked to a state representative one time several years ago who talked about his process for dealing with calls from constituents was to first go to the database and look at what their voting record was.
Really?
Yes. And if they weren't of his party, then they were never going to vote for him. And so he would handle that person differently than the person who is of his party.
Shame.
But there, when you look at how people are treating the public in their campaign, it's a big reflection of what that person is going to do when they're in office. I know PACs get involved in all that sort of thing, right? But if a person's not showing up, if a person's, can't tell you reasons to vote for them, and
are only slinging mud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's all you're getting out of a candidate, then there's a very high likelihood that that candidate is not going to be as responsive to the public as what you want that candidate to be.
I know.
I've
worked with some of them at the elected official level.
Yeah. And it's not all about party.
No, it's really not.
Yeah.
It's really about what you can do for the folks who are your neighbors, your families, your friends, the people that your children are going to marry, the community your children are going to inherit. It takes a lot of work to make it the right place.
It really does. Yeah. And it takes the right people in the right place at the right time. Again, the integrity of the person who's going into office is key there. So be sure that you get to the polls. All right. That's the biggest thing that we can emphasize here. Get to the polls, make your voice heard. I know that there is like an entire wing of the Republican Party, the Republicans who have been screaming about, rhinos in state government and all of those things. I don't care about the labels. What I care about is that you make sure that you cast that vote, because you lose your right to complain if you're not going and casting a vote. All right.
Please do go vote.
Yes. So, Cheryl, I really appreciate your time. This has flown by.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
I've enjoyed being able to chat with you. We're going to do this more often.
Do it more often.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that next time that you give me advice, I'll take the advice.
Everyone should just do what Cheryl tells them to do. The world would be a much better place for me.
Again, thanks for joining us, and be sure that you share and like, and you can hit that like button several times during the show if you want to, and we would sure love that because it elevates the placement on social media, all that stuff that none of us really understand happens, and then we get people watching. So thanks, and join us again next time for This Week in Evansville.